We will now jump to the final section of the Precincts and Infrastructure element of the session. It's a Western Sydney debrief, and it's with Simone Concha from Western Sydney International Airport and Lucy Sharman from the Parkland City Authority. We'll just have a brief presentation from each of them, and then we'll have a bit of a quick chat. So first of all, Simone. Simone is the Executive Manager Sustainability at Western Sydney International Nancy Bird Walton Airport. She has over 20 years experience in sustainable design, construction and building operations, and she's responsible for embedding sustainability into the DNA of the project. Over to you, Simone, for a quick introduction to your project and the circular economy elements.
Excellent, thank you, Ed. I'm just trying to share my screen. I have one or two images just so that people can see what Western Sydney Airport is looking like at the moment. Can you see my screen?
We can see, yes, you can see a slide with the site layout, and gosh, it is a large site.
It is a massive site. So this was the site in 2020. We have built an experience centre here. You can see the Northern Road coming around this way and Elizabeth Drive at the top up here. In the far top right, you can see our early earthworks site. Now, if I go to the next image, this is what it looks like this year. So you can actually see it starting to look like an airport. Here you can see the runway and the associated taxiways, and in this spot you can see the terminal building, which has just very recently started construction. So the size of the terminal building will be the capacity to take 10 million annual passengers. And we're just constructing this one runway at the moment, although at maximum capacity, the airport will be able to take another runway along this side here. And eventually the ultimate size for this airport will be approximately 84 million annual passengers, which is a similar size to Heathrow. So quite a massive airport for Sydney. In terms of circular economy, so Western Sydney Airport as an organisation started up only about 4 years ago, and we were created to deliver this first part of the infrastructure, but also to operate the airport. So from a circular economy point of view, we're starting simply and having impact where we can right now, which is very firmly on the construction. You know, we've heard a bit about water and energy today, but I'm going to focus mostly on materials. And we plan to work up to a higher level of complexity as we go. And because we're a greenfield airport site, and we will also eventually incorporate a cargo precinct and a business park, I really am interested in investigating much more complex circular economy opportunities in those spaces. So that's enough for me for now, I think, Ed. I'll hand over to you again.
Perfect, thanks, Simone. And now Lucy. Lucy is the Director of Sustainability for the Western Parkland City Authority, working on the development of the new Bradfield City Centre in Western Sydney. She has over 20 years experience in the sustainability sector, including roles in the private, not-for-profit and government sectors. Most recently, Lucy led research into the benefits of integrated green roofs with solar panels and the important benefit they bring for biodiversity, renewable energy generation, cooling, and stormwater management. And Lucy's given me the task of trying to share the screen. So now I get to go through the experience. One, you kick off, Lucy, and I'll try and share the presentation while you're at it.
Thanks, Ed, and thanks for the introduction. And I just wanted to give a bit of an overview of where the Western Parkland City Authority is working. And I just want to acknowledge that we're working on the lands of the Dharawal, Gundungurra and Blackington peoples. Just the next slide. Thanks, Ed, for managing the logistics. Much appreciated. So this just gives you an idea about what we're talking about. So the Western Parkland City Authority is a statutory authority, state government authority set up to oversee 800,000 hectares of the Western Parkland City area. And then within that is the airport that Simone's been talking about. And I wanted to focus more on Bradfield, which you'll see that green patch down the bottom, which is about 114 hectares. And I guess both Simone and I have the very great advantage of looking at circular economy from a greenfield site perspective. Next one, Ed. When you're master planning a whole area, there is the potential at that high level to master plan a site to actually integrate circular economy. So how do we look at this site, which is to be frank, this is an artist's impression. It is literally opaque at the moment. To set up circular economy infrastructure for a city, looking at last mile logistics, how do we get rid of plastics out of the city? So trying to, at a high level, look at this city from a circular perspective. And then just the next slide, Ed, looking at that from not just a high level master planning, but to building by building. So this is the first building that is currently being designed, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Facility. And it's being designed from circular economy principles. So every aspect of this design, and it was originally designed with an Aboriginal architectural firm, so it's looking at how it sits in country, but also how we're designing waste out at a building level as well. And just the next slide, it just gives you a bit of an example of what we're looking at in terms of that first building is looking at a cross-laminated timber building that's designing out waste in the first place and designing for disassembly. So Hassel are the architects, they've done a beautiful job. So I think that's just a bit of an introduction about the size of the space that we're dealing with, but also how do you, we're really looking at integrating circularity at a master planning strategic level and down to this more detailed building level. Thanks, Ed.
So, thanks very much, Lucy. And I should acknowledge that the Greater Sydney Commission has been working with both the airport and the Parkland City Authority, because we see the immense opportunity here, and I think it's something that we'd really like to share with colleagues and see both within New South Wales and interstate, some of the learnings, but also what's coming from other projects. Look, we've got time for a quick, short discussion. I think because Simone, I have a question for you around the scale of your projects as an airport project. It's of such immense scale, but it is something that's happening in other jurisdictions too. Are there lessons that you're learning from other projects occurring, whether in Australia or internationally, that you're looking to apply to the airport?
Yeah, so, you know, I think initially just to start with the scale of our project, that's one thing that is a great advantage for us, and the fact that we have a greenfield project as well. One of the things that has been really useful during construction is that because we have such a large area, we've been able to use 98% of recycled water during construction. So that's been a fantastic thing for us to be able to do. In terms of circular economy and the definition that we have for it, my grandmother would say waste not, want not. And that's actually a really good mindset. It's a really solid foundation for a cost-effective business. And so we really are thinking about waste as a resource, both during construction and then as we move into operations as well. So during construction, the key areas of, you know, the big material parts of the fabric, I guess, that we are creating at the airport is going to be pavement materials such as concrete and asphalt. So we are already during construction using a lot of recycled products in concrete, recycled road base, recycled glass, and so on. I think in terms of where we're looking to and sort of where we get inspiration, we already have quite a lot of things to be inspired by in Australia, and the New South Wales Uni of New South Wales Smart Centre is one of the organisations that I really am inspired by. I love the work that they're doing. And they are using things like construction worker PPE or personal protective equipment, and looking for ways to recycle that and uniforms and create them into finishes like tiles or bench tops and those sorts of things. So that's inspirational. Certainly looking to overseas, Schiphol Airport has a really interesting program that they've been doing for some time, growing flax on their airfield and then harvesting that flax, turning it into paint, and then using that to paint airport buildings. So that's a really interesting example. But I think something that it's a growing opportunity in Australia is sustainable aviation fuel. And people on this call may not know that sustainable aviation fuel is actually predominantly manufactured using byproducts from the agricultural and forestry industries. And so it's a really interesting circular economy opportunity and very relevant for us at the airport. Qantas have just recently signed a big deal as well, so it's quite a timely thing for discussion, I think. So those are probably the key areas that I would point to.
Amazing. And I'll look forward to the glimmer of some PPE when in 2027 I'm catching a flight back to see my family.
On your bench top. Yeah.
Indeed. Lucy, what is it about Western Sydney that makes it such a good place to be a sandbox for the circular economy? What are the particular features of the place? And I know at the Commission we talk a lot about the place that are going to help you explore some circular economy principles at Bradfield.
Great. Just a small question, Ed. there is so much about Western Sydney. So we're working with 8 different councils. There's on a physical level, there's land. So there's the capacity to actually be able to have areas that can be used for circularity, so hubs where you could aggregate resources. But those 8 councils within the Western Parkland City area are already doing remarkable things. There's a lot of manufacturing in Western Sydney. There's huge diversity of culture and thinking there as well. There's a lot of resources being poured into it from the state government because it's a growth area. There's going to be increasing population, and I guess one of the things that the authority is looking at is what are going to be the jobs for the future and how can we support them, and how can we support them both from a sustainability perspective, but skills and education and training. So that's some of the aspects of Western Sydney that are great. But I think one of the big things for the authority as well is with the capital that's being invested in Western Sydney, how can we use that most effectively, reduce our wastage of resources, and make sure that we're using that capital to build infrastructure that's sustainable, circular, and built specifically for a future city and what that's going to look like, which is quite exciting. I mean, it's also quite a challenge to think about what will resources look like in 2061, and really we're trying to set targets around not only reducing waste generation in the first place, but predicting what that might look like in the future and predicting low levels of wastage and working to that assumption.
The shifting assumptions, the basis on which we enter into these projects, I think, is something that at the Commission we've been thinking a lot about as well. It's kind of a new presumption of what we want to achieve with these projects, is sustainability and the ESD outcomes. I think we've probably got time just for a last quick fire sort of question, and also it gives me a little sort of cheeky way to have a plug for the Commission at the end as well. But I guess for both Simone and Lucy, in terms of next steps, what's coming up in the near term on your agenda, and are there any opportunities or ways that people at the forum today might be able to assist? So maybe over to you, Simone, first on what's coming up next with your project from a circular perspective.
Yeah, so it's interesting actually. Just last week I was presenting at the Forum on Western Sydney, and also there presenting was the New Alliance, which is a collaboration between 4 of the big universities, Uni of Newcastle, who's on this call today, Wollongong, Uni of New South Wales, and WSU. And they're seeking out big collaborations that make a difference. So I was having a conversation with their project director, Natalie, last week saying, let's have some conversations about circular economy. I think the key thing with circular economy is this is not something that individual organisations are going to fix or solve. We all need to, ultimately the best circular economy is an ecosystem, it's a network. And so to be able to achieve that beautiful complexity that really offers the most opportunity, we need to collaborate very, very strongly. I also am aware of an organisation in the Hunter called the Hunter Joint Organisation, which is 10 councils who've been working together, and they've come up with a material flows analysis for that region. I think something similar for Western Sydney would be wonderful, and I'd love to pose that as an opportunity for the new alliance to maybe start working on a material flows analysis, because that would help organisations like Lucy's and mine to be able to then very strategically think about which kind of industries we're placing together in the new precincts that we're creating. And that is, for me, the holy grail, to be able to place industries together where one industry's waste is the other one's resource.
Perfect. Thanks, Simone. How about you, Lucy? What's next?
Well, that nicely segues, thanks, Simone, to one of the things that we're doing is actually working with New South Wales Circular and Department of Planning and Environment on the Smart Cities Innovation Project, looking at how can we get a digital solution to understand the materials flows in Western Sydney. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be very exciting, and some really interesting brains thinking in that area as well, because it's such a gap. Having the data and understanding the resources that are there that you could build new businesses around when we don't have enough information really about the quality of resource coming out of a particular area. So that's really exciting. And the other thing is we're working on a multi-utilities project. So the authority is looking at how do we actually deliver water, energy, waste infrastructure for a city, design it in one go, look at the interdependencies amongst that infrastructure. So we are working our way through, as I was saying, with the master planning, how do we develop a solid waste management, resource management system that intersects with our water delivery, our digital delivery, and do that effectively now and to 2061 and beyond.
Excellent. Thanks, Lucy. No small thing at all. And I think that's true for all the presenters today. And I'd like to thank all the presenters today for some fascinating presentations. All of them, I think, were little keyholes into much bigger discussions that I think I've pretty much written the agenda for the rest of the task force for this year. So just to conclude, I did want to mention that the Commission as well, as I noted, we're transforming and becoming part of the Greater Cities Commission. So we'll also be having a lot of conversations in the coming months and years as we develop up our region plan, how these circular economy principles are fitted in on that level as well. So thanks for your attention, everyone, and apologies, we have gone 2 minutes over into your tea break, but hopefully you'll still have a chance to have a quick break, and I look forward to seeing many of you at the virtual summit throughout the rest of today and tomorrow. Thanks again to the wonderful presenters. I appreciate all the insights from you. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Ed. And look, some fantastic insights there into detailed circular economy outcomes in infrastructure and precincts in Western Sydney. That's what we want. We want evidence to inspire you and also that you can emulate. So we will go to a short break now. We want you to come back at 11:25. We've got some great speakers after the break. Australian Local Government Association President Linda Scott. We've got more New South Wales researchers on measuring carbon in the circular economy, really important evidence, and a must-see session hosted by New South Wales Circular Board member Jodie Briku, and with the Product Stewardship Centre of Excellence and South Australian Green Industries, ACT and Sustainable Victoria. So see you after the break.